Happy Wednesday. I know depending on where you are in the country, there's a lot of craziness going on, and hopefully this will provide a little bit of diversion and interest in making a dish that is very dear to me. So I lived in Spain for many years. I studied Spanish literature and linguistics. And by the way, Lori, my videographer and my good friend, we're drinking Rosan from Sonoma. This is out of my California wine merchant, Chestnut Street, quarterly wine allocation. If you haven't been there, it's a really fun place, and they always do a nice selection of wine. So I'm going to take another sip here. And tonight we're making the Spanish tortilla de patatas, Spanish potato egg omelet. And for me, honestly, it's one of the most emblematic dishes of Spanish cuisine. You know, you have jamón serrano, you have paella, you have croquetas, but a good tortilla, to me, is very, very Spanish. And you'll find it all over Spain in tapas bars. Now, a lot of it is not great because they tend to just overcook it and it dries out. But when a tortilla is properly made and it's nice and juicy and jugosa, it is unbelievable. In fact, I would venture to say that it could possibly be the best egg dish in the entire world. Every country has their own version of what they consider, you know, their egg dish. You know, the Italians have a beautiful frittata. The French do a beautiful classic omelet with no color on it. The Japanese do tamago, which I love. Every country does an egg dish. But honestly, the Spanish one, when it's done right, I'm just like, there's nothing better. I learned how to make this years ago from my sort of adopted Spanish mother, Lola, whom I lived, and her children back in the early 90s when I was doing a year abroad, undergrad year abroad. And I went back in 2010. And if you guys want to see, this is kind of funny, a little cheesy, but this is me and Lola in her kitchen in Madrid in 2010. Because I went back and I said, hey, Lola, I've been making tortilla for all these years, but it just wasn't coming out like the same way. It was good, but it wasn't, I was missing something because there are little nuances that recipes don't teach you. So I went back to Madrid and we went through it and we filmed it. And I will send you that link to that video later. And I learned all the little tricks. So that's what we're gonna do today. And then the other thing about tortilla, okay, well, let me just quickly say, obviously it was invented in Spain, but where, how, and why? We'll go over that very briefly after I take one more sip of this really nice Roussan. By the way, we're having a heat wave in San Francisco. It is hot. And I imagine everybody outside right now, there's some peaceful protests going on. I bet the people are just like baking right now.
James, we want to know a follow-up question to something you said was, this is the most awesome egg dish ever. What makes it so awesome? What are key things you look for?
It has so few ingredients. So it's basically taking 4 humble ingredients: potatoes, eggs, oil, and salt, and composing them in a way where it comes out so juicy and so delicious that honestly, you can't stop eating it. I'm telling you, it's crazy. And there are no rules for the tortilla. You can have it at 4 a.m. You can have it at 6 a.m. You can have it at midnight, midday. I mean, it's always good. And if you want to make a dinner out of it, no problem. Have a little green salad with some pickled onions. That would be very Spanish, a little garlic aioli. Anyway, you'll see why it is the way it is. It's incredible. So, it was invented in Galicia, according to Lola. And I've done my own research as well. But as all of you know, the potato is not native to Europe. So the potato was discovered by the conquistadores in the New World and brought to the Old World. And when it was brought back to Europe, there was a lot of concern around the potato. A lot of people thought the potatoes were poisonous to eat. In fact, the French didn't eat potatoes for years. And according to Lola, Maria Antoinette actually used to decorate her various wigs and hair pieces with the flowers of the potato. And again, according to Lola, I'm not going to argue with Lola, it was the Gallegos from Galicia, northwest Spain, that took this humble ingredient and invented this amazing dish. Now, there is a variation, and a lot of Spaniards will argue with me about this. Okay, here it is. Should the tortilla have onion or not have onion? Big debate. I've always been fine having it both ways. I kind of prefer it without onion, but the sweetness of the onion when it's caramelized is nice. And I have friends in Spain that's like, Jaime, James, the tortilla without cebolla is not a tortilla. I don't know. So I'm fine both ways, but I recently watched an Instagram video from a Spanish chef, Danny Garcia, who lives in Marbella and has restaurants there, and also has restaurants in Madrid. 3-star Michelin chef, and I really like him. He's just great on camera, really down to earth guy. And he did a video of the tortilla, and he's like, if you want onion in here, he's like, just shut up the video. He's like, la cebolla molesta. It gets in the way. So he's kind of a purist. And after seeing that video and thinking about things, I'm like, you know, I think I do prefer it without onion. But if it's well prepared and juicy, jugosa, I won't say no. I'll eat it, no problem. And I won't stop. This is one of the few dishes where, I mean, I'll eat a lot of it. And I'm pretty careful about that stuff. Okay, so let's talk about our ingredients. Well, we already did. We have potato, we have egg, and we have oil and salt. And that's it. So, now I know some of you are going to cook along with me. And I sent you a message earlier to basically peel and cut your potatoes. And I've done all of that except for one. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I cut the potatoes into kind of small pieces like this. They're kind of the size of like a quarter, and some are a little bigger, fairly thin. Now you could do this on a chopping board, but I did it the way Lola does, because every grandma across Spain and Italy too, they don't use cutting boards. Let's just turn that a little bit. They do everything with a knife. They cut their herbs with either scissors or a knife right over the bowl. So I'm going to take my paring knife, and I'm just going to go like this. Well, that's too small a piece. Hang on. There we go. Kind of like that. Chop, chop, chop. Just kind of irregular shapes. Now the potatoes I peeled and I soaked them in cold water to remove some of the starch as I peeled them. And we're just going to do that. So if you're cooking along with me, you can do that too. My eggs are already cracked into a bowl. But this is just, it's just an amazing dish. There's also a version of this that's a little easier to make. It's kind of a quick, not a cheat, but it was invented by the great Spanish chef from El Bulli, Ferran Adrià, and it's a tortilla de patatas made with patatas chips. So you buy really good olive oil chips from Spain. You can find them all over the place and online. And instead of using potatoes, you use the chips and you soak them in the eggs. And that's a really quick version. And it's very good as well. But we're doing the classic today. So Lola is not watching because it's 3 a.m. in Madrid, but I'm going to send this to her son Jorge, so she'll be able to watch it tomorrow. Because I pay, not you, I pay homage to Lola. She's taught me so many things, including the La Quesada, the cheesecake flan from Santander, region of Cantabria, which I've been serving to my clients and guests for years, which you can also buy on my website for $35. It serves 8 to 12. Cookwithjames.com. Click the Dinners to Go link. I've been doing that the last few weeks, which has been fun. I just made a quesada. I can show you what. Actually, let me show you what it looks like, because my housekeeper loves the quesada. So we have a little barter system going on. Liliana brings me flowers because she and her husband have a flower shop. So in exchange for flowers, I make a quesada for her because she absolutely loves it. Really good, and it's very light too, and it's like incredibly easy to make. Trust me. You don't even have to buy it from me. You can just go on cookwithjames.com and the recipe's there. You can just make it if you want. All right, so we're gonna finish cutting these up. Are there any questions, Lori?
Well, the question on the wine, and so we're drinking a Roussan tonight.
We are. I think last time we were
Sit in the
drinking a
coast.
flower Chardonnay, but tonight we're drinking a Roussan.
Even lighter. It's warmer out.
It's really warm out. I think it's going to cool down tomorrow, but it's a beautiful day today. I went OCD and cleaned the front of the building and swept and power washed and watered, and because the last few weeks in San Francisco, it's been windy, a lot of leaves, a lot of dirt. Anyway, all right.
All right.
So now our potatoes are ready, and we also have we have 8 eggs cracked into a bowl, which I'm going to whisk up in a little bit. So the recipe, which you all have, is basically 4 russet potatoes to 8 eggs. And the reason we're using russet potatoes is because they're starchy. And you can use a new potato. That would work fine too, but the russets work really well for this dish. So again, I'm going to just kind of blend these all together, and then we're going to go over to our stove, and we're going to get these going in some oil. And we're going to fry them for about 16 minutes, but we're going to start them in cold oil so that they heat up slowly. We're not looking to get color. These are not like fried potatoes, French fries. We're not going to get them brown. We're just going to cook them through, and then we'll combine them with our egg mixture, and we'll go from there. Any questions? I know there's a little lag on questions, so we can take our time here. How many of you are actually making this along with me? I should ask that question. Thank you, Greg, from the Wine Merchant. It's a nice vino. It's from my last shipment.
How long to make the potatoes tender, James? I know you gave us a time frame, but what are you looking for in terms of consistency with the potatoes?
So you're going to see this right in a few minutes, but it's probably about 16 minutes, medium heat, medium high in the oil, and they'll start to break down a little bit. You can take a fork and kind of like put your fork through easily, even mash them up a little bit. So they'll be soft, but they won't be like falling apart, and they won't be golden brown. If you do make them golden brown, I've seen Lola do this, and she has a deep fryer installed in her kitchen because they do French fries, patatas fritas, all the time. You can actually get color on them, and they'll still be really good, but the idea is not to get a lot of color on them. All right. So I'm going to take my potato mixture and my Roussan, and we're going to come over here to my Blue Star range, and I'm just going to put all these potatoes in without any oil. I'm just going to get them in here. And I have some olive oil in a quart container. So an important note, olive oil is expensive. You could do, in Spain it's not expensive. So you could fry these, in Spain they use extra virgin olive oil. But Lola likes to use sunflower oil, which is a neutral oil. And I'm actually using a vegetable oil, which I used for the last class. So what I did was, after I used the oil and let it cool down, I strained it back into a quart container. Because if you're only frying potatoes, you can use this oil easily at least 4 times, up to like 6 times, no problem. All right, somebody's ringing the doorbell and we don't like that. Just tell them that we're busy right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour this oil right over the top. And I think I need a little bit of extra oil. I'm going to turn on our burner. So we're starting the oil cold. Was that Sandy?
Nope, it was delivery.
Oh gosh, not for me probably. Okay. We had a delivery, all right. So I'm going to put a little more oil on here, because I think we lost a little bit of volume from the last time. You just want them not quite covered. This is a shallow fry. And so I'm going to take a wooden spoon.
When do you season them, James?
We season them when they're in the eggs, in the egg mixture. We're not going to season them now. So I'm going to move the spoon around so they don't get stuck on the bottom. I have it on high heat right now. We're going to let these get hot. And once they start to sizzle and bubble, then we'll turn down the heat to like medium. And we'll just keep an eye on them. And we'll just stir them occasionally. So until these start to almost break down. And then we're going to let them cool a little bit. And we're going to strain them with a spider into a bowl and remove as much oil as we can. So that's where we are right now. I'm very excited because, like I said, I love this dish. I absolutely love this dish. It's my favorite Spanish dish, next to Lola's croquetas. And I mean, I do a lot of paella classes.
How much oil did you use, James?
I used about a quart container of oil, a little less. So that's a little less than 4 cups. So the heat is rising. How many people do we have watching right now? Now, I don't want this to stick on the bottom, so I'm kind of turning these around a little bit.
We've got 4, and then the millions of people are going to watch once this is posted.
Okay, I'm going to turn this down now to kind of medium high. And I'm just going to keep moving them around. And then I actually have a tortilla pan, which is made in Spain for the tortilla de patatas. If you don't have this though, it's okay. Just use a good non-stick pan. But what's cool about this, it has, double locking pans, so it makes it a lot easier to flip. But with a good plate, and I recommend you do this over the sink, just in case. Once you've made this a few times, you get in the habit, and it's really easy. I should be making this at least once a week. I love it. My friends love it.
What are we looking for before flipping, though, to avoid disaster?
You want the egg to be set enough. You still want the egg runny. So the last video we did, I cooked it perfectly, but it was a little too cooked to my liking. It was actually perfect to be served as a tapa, because what happened was the egg set up just enough where if you cut that tortilla into little pieces and put a toothpick in it, you could serve it at a party as like a tapa, which was great. But I prefer it a little more runny. So today we're going to try and achieve, we will achieve that. What I noticed was last time the eggs were a little bit on the smaller side, and that might have been a factor. And I was also very excited, and my burner was very high. So,
James, what kind of wine do you recommend?
For this, are they asking about this dish?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, my answer is almost always whatever wine you really like, because wine is very, very personal. But I think with a dish like this, if you want to go white or rosé, those would work well. A good Spanish albarino from Galicia, which is dry, has a little bit of fruit, would be delicious. If you want it, if you want to go red, a lighter Tempranillo, or Ribera or Rioja, but a younger one, not like a super full body one, would work well too if you want to stick to Spain. But again, it's really about what you like.
So since we're not going Italian, I think a Sancerre is also perfect.
Sancerre would be great.
Yeah.
Good call.
Great.
Good call from the videographer.
It was a specific question. So Tempranillo is also very similar to a Sancerre. So we'll let James recommend it, and I'll translate.
Well, you mean the albarino is similar to Sancerre?
Oh,
yeah, the Tempranillo is red, and it's 100% varietal, but it's a really good earthy, simple grape. And there are a lot of, in the States, there are a lot of good values on Spanish wines, especially Tempranillos, as they tend not to be well known, and they're not super expensive, but they're very serviceable. All right, so these are bubbling away. Stand here next to my espresso machine. Smells really good. I have the hood off, so you can all hear. I don't know how many minutes we're in. This is coming along pretty fast. So I'm just going to keep kind of turning them. And like I said, if you had a deep fryer and you wanted to use that, totally fine. I'm going to turn this down a little bit more because now it's getting pretty hot. But I have a very hot stove. It's a Blue Star. And the burners are high BTUs. So you can see they still have a little ways to go, but they're starting on around the edges to break down a little, which is what we want. So we just kind of keep pushing them around. And then when I think they're almost there, I'm going to take my fork and just kind of see if I'm able to mash some of them a little bit, then I know they are ready. And by the way, there's no better oil in the world than extra virgin olive oil from Spain, in my opinion. But if you're doing a lot of high heat cooking, other options, sunflower oil, grapeseed oil, even avocado oil. Avocado oil from California is a good option, but it does have a pronounced flavor. Handle this wok is getting nice and hot.
James,
yes, go ahead.
You said earlier onions are something people might typically add. What other ways would you spice this up?
You know, you see like crazy different variations on tortilla. Sometimes they add spinach, chard, chorizo. All of this is fine. What I would encourage you to do is to get comfortable with like just the basic dish as it was intended, and then you can kind of feel free to experiment. That's sort of my advice, and I follow that myself when making dishes. You know, the first time I made a margarita pizza, I made it the classic way, and you can get creative with it and then mix it up. But I think there is a tendency to put too many ingredients in a tortilla. Now, if you were to add onion to this, I would have added the onion not finely chopped, but chopped into kind of just slivers. I would have added that once the oil started to bubble. So maybe like 2 minutes after we put the potatoes in, I would add the onions. That way they can kind of cook down and get a little caramelization. Okay, so have a look at these now, because I think we're there. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. I'm actually going to turn that up. I'm going to get a fork, and I'm just going to have a look at this. So, you can see there's no color on these, but when I come over to the edge, I'll do on this side, I can kind of smash them a little bit like that. We're there. We're good. So, now, I'm going to take these off the heat, and we're going to drain them. So I've got a bowl over here. It's actually very hot. So, I'm going to come over here. And I'm just going to take a kind of a skimmer tool like this, whatever you have. You can get these in Chinatown. And I'm going to scoop these out. And before I pull it off, I'm going to drain as much oil, which we can reuse. You don't have to get all the oil out. You just want to get as much as possible. Okay, here we go. A lot of oil in there. Okay. More. There we go. Have to kind of be patient. Here it comes. Almost have it all out. Then we'll whisk our eggs. I'm going to whisk the eggs with a fork because we don't want to beat too much air into them. All right, almost have it all. Use my spoon to help me get all this off. Okay. So I'll cover oil. Right. can't edit this because we're doing it live. Otherwise we cut out all this middle stuff. All right. One more. Two more. There we go.
Gives people time to catch up.
Hmm?
Gives people time to catch up.
Yeah, if you're cooking with us, yeah, take your time. Okay, we're gonna let this cool for a minute. We have our potatoes.
While we're cooling, what other dishes do you have planned, James?
Well, it seems like a lot of people are interested in regional Italian dishes. And my first live stream with Chef's Feed was a carbonara. I had a lot of people join up for that. It was great, a great class. So I'm thinking maybe in a week and a half or so of doing another Roman classic, pasta alla matriciana. Because there's a good story around it. It's not super hard to make, and it's very comforting. So I think that's my next one. Lori and I were talking about this, and I love all the regional dishes of Lazio, Rome, and that's one of my favorites. And I think it's very accessible for people. So that's what I'm thinking of doing next. But I also like to do a paella as well, because I think that's interesting to people. And it's really hard to make a paella well. It took me many years to master it. There's so many variables. It's not an uncomplicated dish to do right. All right. I'm going to take my eggs here and start to whisk them together. I have 8 eggs. Get these all whisked. Just with a fork. Get them all broken up, mostly homogeneous. It's a workout. Okay. Okay. Let those cool another minute. I'm going to get my salt now, because once we add the potatoes to the egg, we are going to add salt. All right, so I'm going to take my potatoes. I'm going to add them to the eggs. And the real trick to making the tortilla is to let these potatoes hang out in the egg mixture for up to 30 minutes. We're not going to wait that long in the interest of time, but if you do have the time and you're making this on your own, leave it in for 30 minutes or even 10 minutes. So I'm going to just mash this together with a fork and let it sit. And I'm going to add some salt. This is the time when we're going to season it. I'm using a French sea salt. Use whatever salt you're comfortable with, kosher salt, whatever you have.
How much salt, James?
I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons right now, and I'm going to taste it. You want more salt than you think you need, but every salt is different, so you do want to be cautious unless you know your salt well. Okay, so you can see this is what it looks like. It's just in there sitting, and there's enough egg where it's not going to cook it all right now because there's heat from the potato, but that's where it is. All right. I just tasted the fork. I think there's enough salt in there. So let's just wait a minute. You can kind of mash it around a little. But this is really the key. And when I went back to Spain in 2010, this is sort of the nuance that I missed, was once the potato's cooked, just mixing it with the egg and just letting it sit, just letting it chill out. And then we'll put it in the tortilla pan or a nonstick pan, and then we'll cook it and finish it and flip it. And this time, I'm determined that it's going to be jugosa, juicy, the way that it should be when it's done right. Unless you're serving as a taco, which you want to take it a little further. Any other questions? Does the videographer have any questions? And we got a potato that escaped. Delicious.
We did have a request for pizzas. I don't know if you want to talk about some of the classes that you teach under normal circumstances.
So yeah, I do a whole variety of in-person classes, which will resume as soon as it's deemed, safe for small private groups, which should be soon. But I do a pizza class. I do a Neapolitan pizza class. That's really fun. And I could do that online. The one thing that we would need to do is make the dough at least a day in advance because it needs time to ferment. But it's not hard. It's like the simplest thing. It just needs time. You mix it in a bowl with the right ingredients, kind of mix to combine, and then put it on a plate with flour covered in plastic on the fridge for a day or two, and then we can make pizza. So I'm actually planning on launching some Zoom classes next week. So pizza could be one of them.
What's the key to a perfect dough, James, while we're waiting for our patatas?
A key to a perfect pizza dough?
Mm-hmm.
There are so many different kinds of dough, but if we're talking about Neapolitan, the key is 00 flour from Italy, unbleached, no additives, water, yeast, maybe a little bit of oil, and time to ferment. 2 days, even 3 days. Time is your friend. 00 flour and time, T-I-M-E, not T-H-Y-M-E. I'm gonna mix this a little more. Oh, this looks so good.
James, you said that you can serve this as an appetizer or as a side or even as a main or even at like midnight, but how many people would you typically serve with one tortilla?
So the ratio of 4 potatoes to 8 eggs will yield a nice serving, like for a dinner portion for 4 to 6, 4 hungry people, 6 to 8 not so hungry. You could stretch this to 10 to 12 as like a small little slice appetizer. Or if you're really hungry, 2 people could eat this, probably. We'll see what happens after we're done here. I have other stuff to cook, but I'm very excited about this. So it's been sitting here. I think Lori needs a little more Busan. My videographer is getting thirsty. What are all of you drinking? Are you drinking? Water, cocktail, coffee. My favorite sparkling water is that water from Mexico, that Totopo. I love that stuff. I drink 1 to 2 bottles a day.
Do you know where you can find it?
Well, because it was purchased by Coca-Cola like 3 or 4 years ago, you can find it almost everywhere, which is great. I get it at Filetti, the little market I go to. Also Brian's, Buy Right has it. I don't think Safeway has it, but a lot of markets have it.
I think.
Whole Foods?
Per Julie. Julie spotted it.
Julie, you found it? Okay.
All right, we're all drinking wine tonight, it looks like. And
all right.
we've got some reds, we've got some whites. We had a Sancerre's earlier. Hopefully, I think they've cracked that open. What other pairings would you suggest with the tortilla for dinner?
I think we covered them, but if you want to venture into different types of reds, I think that
Food-wise.
Food pairings or wine pairings?
In addition to, say, a salad.
Oh,
what
yeah,
else
okay.
would you pair with it?
Definitely a little garlic aioli is traditional. That would go well with paella as well as this. What would I do? I would typically serve this as a first course and then go on with a main course, some sort of protein. Be it lamb or chicken or beef or whatever, To me, this is just sort of like a starter. And I think a little bit of green salad with it is nice, with a sharp sherry vinegar to kind of cut the richness of it. And a little bit of garlic aioli if you want, like I said. But that to me, it's a course on its own. Yeah. and then go into a main protein, which is also very Italian. Yeah. Although in Spain and Italy they would often finish with the salad, but I think with the tortilla, the salad is a nice accompaniment, you know, just on the side, just some nice butter lettuce or something like that. Are we ready to cook this or finish this? We've already cooked it. We're ready.
I'm excited for the flip.
All right, it's still nice and warm. We've let it sit in here for at least, I think we've been talking 10 minutes, so that's good. This is gonna come out better than the last time. And what we're gonna do is get our pans. I'm gonna put olive oil, a little bit of olive oil on the bottom so it doesn't stick. And also don't forget, if you're using a double pan, put olive oil on the top too. One time I forgot to do that. And when I went to flip it, even though it's a non-stick pan, it was disaster. All right, so I'm gonna kind of rub this around a little bit. And here too, I'm gonna turn on the heat, rinse my hands, and we are in motion. I'm gonna turn this on over medium heat. And once the oil starts to just kind of relax a little bit, we're not looking for it to smoke. I'm gonna pour, this is why it's so good. It's just been sitting here, see that? It's warm, it's got the egg, the potato, the salt, and it's just kind of becoming more homogeneous. And that's what's gonna make the tortilla taste so amazing. And the right ratio of eggs. So those were, I think these are large enough eggs. Last time it was a little, I got a little carried away.
What are the common pitfalls?
The most common pitfall is just to overcook it. But if you don't mix it like this, the egg and the potato will not combine, so it won't be nice and homogeneous. So you're gonna get this tortilla that has, you know, egg in one place, the potato in the other. So how you cut the potato and how you mix it with the egg is really important. Okay, I'm gonna turn that down a little bit. I can see this oil is starting to shimmer a little bit, so that's a good sign. So I'm gonna pour this in. Here we go. Okay, hot. Wow. So that's it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a rubber spatula and I'm just going to kind of spread everything out. Oh, that's looking beautiful. And I'm going to go around the edges to just kind of make sure that we have a nice mold for our tortilla. And I'm just going to cook that slowly. I'm kind of medium low. And we're not going to mess with that right now. You're going to see how amazing this is. I'm going to get a plate out for our tortilla. Nice large plate. And if you're making this with me, you'll probably want to get a plate as large as you can find so that when it comes time to flip the tortilla, you can do that successfully. And I recommend doing it over the kitchen sink, just in case, because things happen. You know, they happen, whatever. It's not the end of the world. Okay, so I'm going to give this a little shake. You can do this in a non-stick if you have an antique cast iron or non-antique that you've really oiled well, but I don't recommend it. The non-stick is going to set you up for success. And I only use non-stick for this because it's just too stressful. But you know, and originally in Spain, there was no non-stick, there was no Teflon. Now we have green non-stick pans that are a lot healthier environmentally, but in Spain they didn't have this, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago. But give yourself a break and just take it easy on yourself. That's my thought.
James, what's the size of that frying pan?
Well, let's see. That is 10 inches. You can get bigger ones or smaller ones. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Okay, that's coming along. And then what you want to do is just use your little spatula, and you can kind of start to lift up and see if you get any coloring. We don't have any coloring yet. That's what we're looking for. And then we'll flip it. This is going to be extraordinary. I mean, this is like life. When the first time I had this, life-changing. Even without the onion. Without the onion. We already said, F the onion. If you want to do onion, it's fine. It's good. It's fine. To my friends in Spain, I'm doing it without onion. I'm joining, you know, the movement. Danny Garcia, sin cebolla. I'm on board. But like I said, if you serve me one with onion and it was good, I'm not going to say no. Okay, this is going. Take our time, take our time. As Lola says, you can't rush a tortilla de patatas. No se puede, no se debe. All right. Okay, I don't see any color there yet, so that's good. I'm going to turn this up just a little bit, and get some color on there. How are we doing on time? Okay, 42 minutes in. We should be done in a few minutes. I think the last one went long, but we had a lot of questions and touch points and things like that. All right. Yeah. Very exciting, very exciting. And this dish can be served, like I said, it can be served hot. I think it's better room temperature. You can even serve it cold. But I think room temperature is ideal. So you can make this, you know, an hour or 2 or 3 in advance of your guests coming over. And just have it, I like to cover it with another plate so it doesn't dry out, or plastic wrap, and just have it sitting around. And then it's like perfect. This is not a dish that you should eat like super hot. Okay, I think we're starting to get some color. I think we are. I don't want too much color. This is the part that always makes me nervous. It's like, okay, how far do we take it? Because we want it to stay juicy, jugosa. We want a little bit of runny egg. Some people are funny about that. We don't want it running all over the plate, but we want a little bit of runny egg, okay? Trust me. On the best tortilla spots in Spain, do it that way. One spot that I often go to, in the Barrio de Ponzano, they do it just like this. And they do 80 to 120 tortillas in one single day. Can you imagine that? You know how much work that is? Holy moly! Holy mackerel. All right. I think we're getting close. Oh, look at that. Our videographer is getting pretty excited and anxious for this.
It's dinner time.
It's tapa time, no matter what time it is. All right, so you know, it's pretty liquid, but I think I'm gonna make the call. I'm gonna flip it because last time.
Can you show us what the sides look like first, James, so we know what?
Yeah, let's try and do that. Okay, let's just see. Let's just see. You don't want too much color. We could get a little more color, but I think the color is developing. I think we're good.
Okay.
So, I've got oil on this side. Okay, so this is the part that's really dangerous, right? I got my tortilla pan. And you can get these online. You can also sometimes get these at my friends' shops at the Spanish Table. They have locations in San Francisco, Berkeley, and Marin, and they're a great resource for Spanish products if you live in the Bay Area. Okay, are we ready? Lori, am I going to do this?
Standing back.
Are you worried?
Never.
You're not worried, okay. One hand, 2 hands. There we go. There we go. Oh, look at that. Actually, the color on that, last time it was too brown. This looks perfect. Oh my God. Okay, so I'm gonna cook this nice and slow. Now some people flip this 2-3 times. I honestly don't think that's necessary. I think I like to set up my clients for success. So I'm not gonna flip this again. What I'm going to do is let this cook a little bit longer on low so the egg is cooked enough and hopefully still really nice and juicy. And I'm going to take it to the plate. And I'm not going to mess around with this tortilla anymore. That's it. And how do you know? Practice, luck, intuition. I think that's pretty wet.
What are you looking for when you're tapping?
Just how much resistance there is. And I think the heat down there is pretty good. So last time I took it too far. I'm gonna take this off, and we're just gonna, you know what? We're gonna have a moment here and just look at the tortilla and admire it, and build up a little anticipation. And then we're gonna take it to the plate, and then we'll cut into it, and we'll see what happens. I'm not really sure what else to do. And then later I'll strain that oil and use it again. But this dish, it's so Spanish. And it's not the easiest thing to make. But if you love Spain, as I do, just embrace it. Just go for it. Make Lola proud. Any more questions coming in?
No, but I'm looking forward to seeing everybody's photos, how theirs turning out.
I am too. Yeah, please share.
The successes and the failures are welcome.
Well, you know, like I said, the last one I did was not a failure, but it was not a success in my mind because I took it a little too far. So the last tortilla that I made that was like perfect was actually at Lori's house. I think I'm going to take this off. What do you think? Let's sit another minute. Well, let's sit another minute. It's off the heat. It's off the heat. And the longer you let it sit, the better. I mean, within reason, of course. You're not going to let it sit for a day. Let it sit for 30 minutes.
This dish is all about
an hour, even 2 hours covered. That's it. Prepare your other ingredients, your other appetizers, your other aperitivos, your cheese, your Spanish olive stuff with anchovies, your patatas chips. Are any of you familiar with the way that Spaniards like to have anchovies? They love them on bread, but they also like to just drape them over olive oil fried potato chips and eat them with mussels, with canned mussels, like the stuff you get from Spanish Table. Like the Spaniards have a real tradition. These are actually from Portugal, but they have a real tradition of canned products that are extremely high quality. You can just crack these open and eat them. And actually, I'm going to show you something. These anchovies, jugosa, they're from the Cantabrian Sea up in the north. It's cold up there. Hand filleted. These are the best anchovies in the world, in my opinion. Although in San Francisco we do have our own local anchovies, and a local chef recently started something called the Anchovy Project. Stuart Briosa, who owns a few restaurants here in the city. Now I haven't tried them, but he's getting them 2 hours out of the sea and then doing a cure on them. And I can't wait to try them. Those might be right up there with the Spanish ones. All right, let's do this, Lori. Here it is. I can tell it's still it's loose. I can still tell it's like I'm hoping we nailed this one. All right, I'm gonna take this out. Take this to the plate. There we go. Oh yeah, I can tell it's still juicy down there. Wow. Okay, there it is. Oh yeah. Let this cool a minute. Woo, it's hot. We'll get a little plate out. Contemplate life and how lucky we are to be making this dish, right? I mean, that's how I feel. Let that sit a minute. How are your tortillas? Do we need more time for people to kind of catch up and feel right about things? Okay. I see a couple of messages. Yeah.
We have some that are a little more well done.
That's okay.
But good, it sounds like we're already slicing into ours.
Should we slice into this, Lori?
Let's do it.
Slice a small piece. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Here, we can also, Lori, here, let's get this in here. See how juicy? It's still cooking a little bit from the residual heat, but that, I think I'm much happier with this one than I was the last one. Look at that. See what I'm talking about? It's together, but it's also jugosa. And once it's cooled, it's going to taste a lot better. So just give it. I mean, you can have a piece now if you're feeling, you want to try it. But in 30 minutes, perfecto. Lori, let's try this. Come on. Let's just try this. I'm not messing around anymore. You ready? Go ahead. Take a piece. Take a slice. It's still hot. That's the problem. But
James, that's fantastic. I'm going to eat this for dinner at midnight tomorrow morning.
this is what I failed to do last time. I just cooked it a little too far, but once it's cooled though, all the flavors come through. Yes! I'm so happy, guys. I'm pretty darn happy about this.
That's perfect, James.
That's it. Yeah, that's enough tortilla for 6. Oh, easily. That's a lot. All right, so I'll let you guys catch up.
I think everybody's already on board and maybe even ahead of us, so they're already eating.
You're already ahead of me.
I think so.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Bien hecho. Buenísimo. A aprovechar. Yeah, I think we're good. Any other? I mean, I don't want to end this too soon. We're good. But any other questions? No.